All right, hello, and welcome back to the channel. This is Jimmy. Good morning. This is Jimmy from Walk and Talk with Jimmy, and thank y'all for clicking on another video today. So I was thinking the other day, and this is a follow-up to one of my videos, that there is a loss of loyalty and engagement in the service industry today. It's really hard to find really great employees. It's really hard to find really great staff when you go to places, whether that's going out to eat, going to shop for clothes. And I think it's really easy to blame employees, when in actuality I think the majority of the blame falls on the leadership. And to start this video, I would like for you to ask yourself, if you're watching, I'm assuming that you're a leader, or you aspire to be a leader. Are you a leader you would follow? And so I want to talk a little bit about my thoughts on why there is such a breakdown in engagement from employees. I remember a time back when my first getting started. I was at like my third assignment, and I had a really strong reputation of starting to be a fixture that can get a lot of work done. And at the time, I was so focused on growing my career and trying to demonstrate that I was capable of doing more and capable of doing next, I forgot about the reason I ultimately did the work that I did anyway. And I love the ability to impact people in a positive way. I love serving my community and providing really great experiences, especially to the kids. Being a store manager at Toys R Us, I took, being the toy authority as a very significant responsibility. And when I took on this third assignment, I was full of myself. Like, my ego was at full bloom. And my first 6 months there, instead of really connecting with my leadership team, I was so focused on fixing the store. And so every conversation I had, everything I did was chasing perfection in that space. Fast forward a few months in, I had some rock star talent. I recruited a supervisor that, again, probably well overqualified for the job, and was making a significant impact on the business. But they didn't stay long. They didn't stay long because instead of creating an environment where people felt safe to win and express ideas, I created a very competitive environment. I created an environment that didn't breed trust, that people were trying to save their own asses. And such, there was backstabbing, there's a lot of politics, there's undercutting, and lack of follow through. And the culture was not great. And my employees overall had a good experience, but my leadership team, not so much. And it's really easy for me to say, well, that's those people, I need to get new people. But I didn't really reflect on it until a couple years later about how my actions was really driving those behaviors. The environment I created let those behaviors be okay. Or at least it wasn't okay, because I was always hair on fire about those things, but I couldn't figure out why people would want to work that way. And when you put people in a position to where oh, that scared me. When you put people in a position where they don't want to show up to the place they work because there's no engagement, there's no fun, there's no connection, you're going to get an environment like that. And so some of the reasons that I've seen a lack of engagement in these spaces is most of the time is due to the leaders and our ability to engage and build trust in our teams. So there's a couple things that I see that lead to this. One, lack of recognition. When people don't feel recognized for the work they do, it's really hard for them to show up and consistently do great work. One, they don't know what great work is, because recognition is just as powerful of a tool as accountability and setting parameters. If you let people know what you don't want, you have to be really great at celebrating what you do. And when you celebrate what you do and you focus more on the recognition, people try and rise to meet those aspirations. And even when they're not quite there, how do you recognize effort? Because effort is what gets people to goals. People don't all have the same change curve, but being able to recognize effort is important. Two, lack of growth opportunities. I think there's been such a focus on I'm going to back up and talk about recognition. There's been such a focus on things being equitable, but oftentimes we don't make the work equitable. There's people carrying a lion's share of the load, and people want meaningful recognition. I've worked for organizations where we're so focused that everybody gets the same, but not everybody does the same work. And you can dish out a tremendous amount of impact and amount of work in shorter time than everybody else. The equity comes from how we divide the work, not in how the works get done. 2, lack of growth opportunities. There's too much of an emphasis on who you know versus how you work and how your mindset is. And when people don't feel connected to opportunities, they feel they don't have control over their experience or their career, being able to accomplish what they want to do. It's really hard to stay loyal. And 3, I think, which is the biggest one, which should have been number 1, is a lack of trust with leaders, a lack of a connection. The team don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that goes for customers, that goes for teammates. And oftentimes leaders, I'm going to say oftentimes, but I've worked with leaders where their number 1 focus was being the smartest in the room. Their number 1 focus was trying to get out the information they wanted to share versus focusing on how that information was going to add value to the listener. Sometimes leaders are so focused on what they have to share, they forget how it adds value to the listener. And therefore, we never make it important. The other thing is trust. People want to know that who they work for is consistent, that they're decisive, but that decisiveness is connected to who they are. And if I don't know who you are as a leader, because one day I get the happy version of you, the one day I get the frustrated version, and it's always back and forth, it's really hard to trust. It's really hard to know what conversations you're having about me in the room that I'm not in when I can't understand or predict how you're going to show up. And so trust and authenticity is huge. Leaders are sometimes so busy trying to focus on, and I've been there. I was a leader that was, in my early days at Toys R Us, I was trying to demonstrate that I knew and what I knew and that I was capable. I focused less, and I didn't focus enough on being me. And that lack of being me meant the lack of connection to me, which ultimately ends up being a lack of connection to the work, because people don't quit companies, they quit leaders. And if you don't have a connection with your direct supervisor or leader, it can be really challenging. It's not a fun place to work. So here are 4 strategies that you can use as a leader that I've been using. And these are obviously just not the only 4 strategies. I learn every day, and I learn something new every day. I learn from multiple different leaders, and leadership is a journey, not a destination, where I'm always growing and learning. And as I grow and learn, I like to share tools with people that I think it can help. So one of my favorite things to share in terms of this topic is care beyond the work, care beyond the title. And what I mean by that, connection, very, very seldom do connection only happen around work. The people we work with have families, they have birthdays, they have things that's important to them. And at least with your direct team, do you know what's important to them? Do you know what they do in their spare time? What are their aspirations? It's caring a little bit more beyond the work. Number 2, and probably my favorite, is give ownership. Don't just assign tasks. Delegating tasks is transactional leadership. Delegating authority is transformational leadership. How do you delegate authority? To give the person the empowerment to make decisions on the how, and you just hold them accountable to the expected outcome. But to do that, you got to delegate authority. 3, invest in their growth. So if you look around your team and you figure out that you don't have a lot of people that can get the work done, hiring is not always the best outcome. Ask yourself, how are you investing? Because leadership is always about growth. And if you're not investing in your people's development or creating an environment where they feel the need to invest in themselves to show up better, it's a missed opportunity. And people like to stay where they feel valued. And the last 2 that I just covered, investing in people's growth, recognizing their work, knowing what they aspire to, is how you really demonstrate value. The fourth strategy I got is make work a place people want to be. Work doesn't have to be this thing that's grueling. People make it grueling. If I signed up to do the job, hopefully I really enjoy the job. And I can think about moments in my career when I haven't enjoyed what I love to do. It's closely been connected with working for people that didn't align with my approach. And I didn't have the autonomy on how to get the work done. They had a very specific way they wanted it done. And therefore, it has made me a task manager. And that's not the work that really filled my cup. Good morning. How you doing today, sir? So make work a place people want to go. If you're having fun at work, you're having really great relationships, connections, and you're getting the job done, you're celebrating winning, which everybody loves to do, you're probably going to have a really great culture. I have a supervisor now that says your culture is how your team feels on Monday, right? Do they want to go to work after the weekend? And I'm not saying this is always easy, but a lot of times when I hear people complain about work, they complain about the people they work for, not necessarily about the job. And so how do you make work this place where people want to hang out? So I'm going to do an episode on each one of these topics individually, but I thought this was a great starter and 4 quick strategies you can do to really build employee loyalty and trust amongst your team. Good morning. So that is all, folks. Thank you for clicking on another video. If you found this helpful, you know what to do. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a leader that could really benefit from the message. This is Jimmy. I'll see y'all soon.